The grand chamber of the Galactic Council stretched wider than any stadium humans had ever built. Its ceiling glowed with artificial constellations, shimmering stars designed to remind the delegates of the vast galaxy they represented. Beings of every shape and size filled the tiers: scaled lizards with golden eyes, creatures made of crystal and light, tall avian forms with wings folded in respect. Thousands of species, thousands of voices, gathered together for one purpose: judgment. At the very center of the chamber, standing on the smallest platform, was Ambassador Elias Carter, the representative of Earth. He looked painfully small in comparison to the towering alien forms around him. His suit was simple, his face weary, but his eyes held the fire of humanity's determination. He had spent years preparing for this moment, believing it would be the day humanity was welcomed into the interstellar family. Instead, it had become a trial. A voice boomed across the chamber. It belonged to the Valar speaker, a being of pure light enclosed in a crystalline frame. "Delegates of the Council," the speaker announced, "we are gathered to vote on the petition of humanity's admission into this august body. The species has made great strides. They have built ships, crossed the stars, and contacted several civilizations." There was a pause. The silence carried weight, and Elias felt it pressing on his chest. The speaker's voice hardened. "But they are also dangerous." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Some delegates nodded, their features stern. Others whispered with unease. Elias raised his chin, trying to remain calm, but he could feel the judgmental eyes burning into him. A tall alien with silver skin and a voice like ringing bells rose from its seat. It was the Korakai Elder, whose species had survived countless wars. "Humanity is ambitious beyond measure," the Elder said. "In only a few centuries they leaped from swords and fire to engines of space travel. Such speed is not natural. It is reckless." Another delegate, a serpent-like creature with emerald scales, hissed in agreement. "Yes, and in their history, how many wars have they fought? How many times have they destroyed their own kind? Their world is scarred by conflict, their oceans poisoned by their greed. If they are given a place among us, what will they do with more power?" Elias finally stepped forward. His voice trembled, but he forced it to be clear. "Yes, humanity has made mistakes. Yes, we have fought wars, but we have also created art, music, medicine, and peace. We stand here today because we want to grow, to learn, to share. We are not perfect, but neither is any species in this chamber." For a brief moment, silence followed. Elias thought he saw flickers of sympathy in some of the alien faces, but then the speaker raised its hand. "The matter is not of sympathy, it is of safety," the speaker said coldly. "The Council must decide, shall humanity be welcomed or shall they be restricted?" The word restricted echoed like a death sentence. Elias's fists clenched at his sides. He had fought too hard, traveled too far, only to hear humanity's fate described in such cold terms. The votes began. One by one, lights appeared across the chamber as each delegate cast their decision. Elias watched helplessly as more and more turned red, the color of rejection. Some few blinked green, showing support, but they were drowned out by the overwhelming tide of red. The speaker's voice rang out once more. "By decision of the Galactic Council, humanity is hereby banned from entry into Council space. Their trade will not be recognized. Their colonies will not be supported. They shall remain outsiders." The word struck Elias like a physical blow. His vision blurred and his throat tightened. He wanted to shout, to demand justice, to remind them that humanity had worked so hard to reach this point. But as he looked around the chamber, he saw the truth. There was no room for his voice here. He stood tall instead. His eyes swept across the council, meeting their stares one by one. His voice was quiet, but it carried across the chamber. "History will remember this day," Elias said, "not as the day humanity was welcomed, but as the day humanity was cast aside. You fear us because we rise quickly. You fear us because we are not like you. Very well, you may close your doors, but humanity does not stop at closed doors. We will build our own path. We will carve our own place among the stars." A ripple of unease passed through the chamber. Some whispered that his words were arrogant. Others, though, shifted uncomfortably, as if they sensed something in his tone, a spark of defiance that no decree could extinguish. When Elias left the chamber, the humans who had come with him walked silently at his side. They had dreamed of alliance, but now they walked with heavy steps carrying the weight of rejection. Outside the great hall, the stars stretched across the void. For the first time, those stars no longer felt like a promise of belonging. They felt like a challenge. On the shuttle back to their ship, Elias sat quietly, staring at the endless night beyond the window. One of his aides, a young woman named Mira, finally spoke. Her voice was soft, almost afraid. "What do we do now, Ambassador?" Elias did not answer immediately. He thought of Earth, of the billions waiting for news. He thought of the council chamber, of the arrogance and fear that had sealed humanity's fate. And then slowly a hard determination settled over him. "We go home," he said at last. "We tell our people the truth. And then we show the galaxy who we are. If they will not let us in, then we will stand alone. And in time, they will see us not as outcasts, but as something greater." The aide swallowed and nodded. There was fear in her eyes, but also a spark of something else. Hope. As the shuttle carried them back toward their waiting ship, Elias closed his eyes. His heart was heavy, but deep within a flame had been lit. It was the same flame that had driven humanity to sail across oceans, to climb mountains, to reach for the moon. The Council had banned humanity. But they had also, without realizing it, given them something more powerful than membership. They had given them a reason to prove themselves, and humanity would. The news of the ban spread across Earth like a storm. Every screen, every broadcast, every newspaper carried the words, "Humanity banned by Galactic Council." For a few days, silence fell upon the world. Billions of people, from crowded cities to quiet villages, struggled to understand what it meant. Some felt anger, others despair. Many had dreamed of a future among the stars side by side with other civilizations, sharing knowledge, art, and friendship. That dream had been broken. In the great cities, crowds gathered. In New York, people stood in front of giant holoscreens watching the recording of the Council's decision. In Beijing, scientists met late into the night, whispering about what could be done. In Nairobi, musicians sang songs of sorrow and defiance. In Delhi, children asked their parents why the galaxy had turned its back on them. But slowly, the despair turned into something else. A question began to rise. If the Council does not want us, then why not make our own way? The meeting of leaders weeks later, the leaders of Earth gathered in Geneva. It was not only presidents and prime ministers who came. Scientists, engineers, teachers, and even farmers were invited. The hall was filled with every kind of human voice, speaking not only for nations but for humanity itself. Ambassador Elias Carter stood before them. His face was tired from endless interviews, speeches, and debates, but his voice was steady. "They have shut their doors to us," Elias said. "But look around you. Every step humanity has ever taken, we took because someone told us we could not. When we were told we could not cross oceans, we built ships. When we were told we could not fly, we built wings. When the stars were too far, we built rockets. And now when they tell us we do not belong, I say we build our own home among the stars." The hall erupted in voices. Some shouted with excitement, others with fear. One leader from a small island nation stood and asked, "But how?" "We are alone. The galaxy is vast. We do not have their technology, their fleets, their power." Elias nodded. "True, but we have what they do not have. We have unity, we have creativity, and we have will. They fear us because we rise too fast. Let us prove them right. Let us rise faster than they can imagine." It was not an easy decision. Many argued for years of waiting, of staying safe on Earth. But the voices of the dreamers grew louder than the voices of fear. Finally, a decision was made. Humanity would begin the great exodus, the departure. The skies above Earth grew busy with ships. Old freighters were repaired and turned into colony vessels. Mining ships were refitted to carry families. New designs rolled out of factories, their engines glowing with ambition. In Cape Canaveral, a massive launch site was expanded until it became a city of steel. From there, one after another, great colony ships lifted into the heavens. In Tokyo, engineers worked on advanced life support systems that could keep families alive for decades in deep space. In Mumbai, doctors trained in zero-gravity medicine, preparing for children who would be born among the stars. The sight was breathtaking. For the first time in history, the whole planet worked together not for war, not for competition, but for survival and hope. Children waved flags as ships launched. Families embraced at the departure gates, tears shining in their eyes. Some stayed behind on Earth, unable or unwilling to leave, but they cheered for those who went. for those brave enough to step into the unknown. Mira, the young aide who had once asked Elias what they would do, stood at the ramp of her assigned colony ship. Her parents were already inside, and she turned one last time to look at Earth. The blue oceans, the green forests, the glowing cities, all of it seemed smaller now. As if it belonged to the past, she whispered to herself, "We are not leaving home. We are carrying it with us," and with that she stepped aboard. Life among the stars, the journey was not easy. The colony ships traveled through dark, empty regions where no starlight reached. Supplies were limited. Space sickness spread among the children. Machinery broke down, forcing engineers to work day and night with limited tools. But still, humanity endured. On one ship, a teacher named Rosa opened a small classroom where children gathered to learn math, history, and stories of Earth. She told them about the deserts of Africa, the rivers of South America, the mountains of Asia, and the snowy lands of the poles. She wanted them to remember Earth not as a place they had lost, but as a part of who they were. On another ship, an old musician carried a simple wooden violin. Every evening, he played soft music that filled the halls. The notes reminded the colonists of sunsets, laughter, and love. Many wept, but they also smiled because the music carried hope. Engineers shared their skills, building hydroponic gardens where green plants grew in the middle of metal halls. Doctors worked tirelessly, saving lives and delivering new ones. The first child born in space was named Nova, after the stars themselves. She became a symbol of humanity's future. And though the galaxy ignored them, humanity built its own rhythm in the silence of the void. The first world's years passed. The colony fleet spread farther from Earth, until they found empty worlds, planets too far, too harsh, too lonely for the Council to bother with. On one frozen world, humanity built domes that glowed with light against the endless snow. Beneath those domes, crops grew and children laughed, their breath fogging the glass walls as they looked out at the white wilderness. On a barren rock with no atmosphere, mining colonies dug deep into the ground. They extracted minerals to build more ships, more stations, more dreams. The workers sang songs as they labored, songs of Earth, songs of hope. On a distant planet with thick forests and strange skies, explorers planted the first human flag. The forest creatures watched curiously from the shadows, and though humanity had been rejected by the galaxy, here they felt truly free. Each new colony became a spark in the darkness. Slowly those sparks connected until humanity had built something greater than anyone imagined, a kingdom of stars. The promised decades after the ban, humanity no longer wept for the Council's rejection. They had something better. They had their own future. In a great gathering on the first capital world, leaders and colonists stood beneath a sky filled with human-built ships. Children born among the stars ran between them, laughing, their voices echoing in the wide halls. Ambassador Elias Carter, now old with white hair, stood once more before humanity. His voice was slower than before, but no less powerful. "They told us we were too dangerous," he said. "They told us we were not ready. But look around you. Look at what we have built, not with their help, but with our own hands, our own hearts. We are no longer asking to join their family. We have built our own." The crowd erupted in cheers. Flags waved, voices sang, and the stars themselves seemed to listen. Mira, now a leader herself, stood beside Elias. She remembered her first steps aboard the colony ship, her whisper to the Earth she had left behind. Now as she looked up at the glowing sky, she knew she had been right. They had not left home. They had carried it with them, and humanity, once banned, now stood unbroken. The years turned into decades, and the decades began to weave into generations. Humanity, once cast aside by the Galactic Council, had spread across distant worlds. The story of the ban was still told to children, but it was no longer spoken with despair. It was spoken with pride, as the beginning of something greater. The colonies were no longer fragile outposts struggling to survive. They had grown into cities, nations, and a new kind of civilization, one built not on Earth's soil but among the stars themselves. They called it the Kingdom of Stars, the capital world. Haven, the first world to truly shine, was a planet they named Haven. It was once a frozen, lifeless place, but beneath its icy crust, humans built vast domes filled with warmth and light. The domes expanded year by year, until whole valleys were covered by glittering glass and steel. Inside, cities rose like jewels. Tall towers stretched beneath the protective domes, their windows glowing with human life. Parks filled with green trees and rivers made from melted ice brought color to the once barren world. Children played under artificial skies that glowed with blue daylight. Haven became the capital of humanity's new civilization. It was here that the first Council of Colonies met. No longer was Earth alone in deciding humanity's path. Every colony, no matter how small, sent representatives. Together, they formed a new kind of government, one where voices from across light years could be heard. At the heart of Haven stood a great hall known as the Hall of Unity. Its walls were lined with the flags of every colony, and above them hung a single larger flag, a circle of stars surrounding Earth, showing that though humanity had left home, they still remembered where they came from. A life between stars, life among the colonies was not easy, but it was rich with meaning. People worked hard, but they also built traditions that brought them joy. On the mining colonies, workers created festivals where they carved sculptures from stone and metal, celebrating the strength of human hands. On the forest world of Aurora, children painted their faces with bright colors, imitating the strange alien birds that shared their skies. On Haven, every year, people gathered to watch the launch of new colony ships, cheering as the engines lit up the sky. Technology advanced quickly. Ships grew faster, stronger, and safer. Farms beneath domes produced enough food to feed millions. New medicines cured illnesses that once haunted Earth. Schools taught children not only about Earth's history, but about the new worlds humanity had claimed. And through all of it, one belief was repeated: we are not broken. We are builders. The old ambassador. Elias Carter lived long enough to see the fruits of humanity's labor. Though his hair had turned white and his hands trembled with age, his spirit was as strong as ever. On his 100th birthday, the Council of Colonies invited him to speak in the Hall of Unity. Thousands of people filled the chamber, and millions more watched through broadcasts across the colonies. Elias stood slowly, leaning on a cane, but when he spoke, his voice carried with the strength of a man who had never surrendered. Many years ago, I stood in another hall far from here, he began. I asked for humanity to be welcomed. I asked for trust, for partnership, and we were denied. That day, many believed it was the end of our dream. But look around you. Was it the end? The crowd roared back, no! It was the beginning, Elias said, his eyes shining. The galaxy told us no, so we made our own yes. They cast us out. So we built a kingdom so bright it lights the dark, and we will keep building, for our children, and for theirs, until the stars themselves cannot count our worlds. The cheers shook the chamber. Even children understood that they were part of something far greater than themselves. When Elias passed away a few years later, every colony dimmed its lights for 1 hour. Ships across the void paused their journeys to honor him. He had not lived to see the galaxy accept humanity, but he had seen humanity accept itself. The arrival of strangers. One day, on the edge of human space, a ship appeared. It was damaged, its hull scorched and broken. Human patrols rushed to help, pulling survivors from the wreck. To their surprise, the passengers were not human at all. They were exiles from a species known to the Council. The aliens were weak, hungry, and afraid. They had been cast out by their own people for crimes of rebellion. They expected humanity to turn them away as well, but the humans opened their domes, gave them food and medicine, and offered them homes. You are safe here, the human doctor said. Word spread quickly. Other species who had been rejected or forgotten by the Council began to seek the kingdom of stars. Refugees, wanderers, and the outcast all found sanctuary among humans. For the first time, humanity was not only building for themselves but for others, and in this they found new strength. Where the Council had feared them, the outcasts admired them. Where others saw danger, the lost saw hope. Whispers in the galaxy as humanity's kingdom grew. Whispers spread through the galaxy. Council traders complained that their markets were losing value because humans had created new trade routes of their own. Council leaders frowned at the reports of colonies glowing with life on worlds they had ignored. Some species argued that humanity was proving the Council wrong. Others still insisted that humans were dangerous, pointing to their rapid growth as proof. But the Council could not deny the truth. Humanity had not collapsed in exile. They had flourished, and quietly, some alien citizens, tired of the Council's slow and strict rules, began to look toward the Kingdom of Stars with envy and with admiration. The Festival of Stars, to celebrate 50 years of the kingdom. The colonies organized the first Festival of Stars. It was held on Haven, but every colony joined through giant holoscreens. Ships lit up the skies with colorful trails of light. Children from different colonies dressed in traditional clothes, mixing old Earth customs with new ones born on alien worlds. Songs were sung in many languages, yet all carried the same theme. We are one people, no matter the distance. At the height of the festival, Mira, once an aide, now one of the leaders of the Council of Colonies, stood on the central stage. Her voice echoed through every colony, every ship, every station. 50 years ago, we left Earth not because we wanted to, but because we had to. We were told we had no place among the stars. But today, look at what we have made. A kingdom not of rulers and subjects, but of builders and dreamers. We are not asking to be recognized. We are showing who we are. We are humanity. We are the Kingdom of Stars. The cheers that followed were carried across the void itself. Even the stars seemed brighter that night. The oath after the festival, a new tradition began. Children of every colony took an oath when they reached adulthood. They stood beneath the open sky, whether under a dome or upon a ship, and they said together, "We are the children of Earth. We are the children of the stars. No door will be closed to us, for we carry the key within. We are humanity, and we will never be broken." The oath spread quickly, becoming a symbol of unity. Wherever it was spoken, parents smiled and elders nodded, remembering the long road from exile to kingdom, the kingdom's light by the end of the century. Humanity had transformed from a rejected species into a true galactic power. Their ships traveled farther than ever before. Their colonies stretched across hundreds of light years. Their people lived with pride, not fear. And though the Galactic Council still refused to recognize them, it no longer mattered. Humanity had built something stronger than recognition. They had built trust among themselves, hope for their children, and light for the lost. The Kingdom of Stars was no longer just a dream. It was real, it was alive, and it was unstoppable. The stars had grown brighter for humanity. Their kingdom stretched across many worlds. Their fleets guarded the void, and their children no longer remembered a time when the Council's rejection had brought sorrow. For them, the ban was no longer a wound. It was history. But the galaxy had not forgotten. The Galactic Council, still ruling its vast alliance of species, had watched humanity's growth with unease. Reports flowed into their chambers. Trade routes once controlled by the Council were now dominated by human merchants. Small alien groups who once begged for the Council's aid now traveled freely under the protection of human fleets. Even more troubling, some younger civilizations were turning their eyes toward the Kingdom of Stars, seeing it as a model of hope rather than the Council's ancient order. The Council could not ignore humanity anymore, and so after nearly a century of silence, the Council called for a meeting. The Council's debate, the chamber looked the same as it had when Ambassador Elias Carter had once stood small and alone. But this time the discussion was different. The Valar speaker, still a being of light, addressed the gathering. Humanity grows unchecked. They were banned from our space, yet they build a kingdom to rival ours. Their ships now fly farther than our fleets. Their colonies are many. Some say they are dangerous. Others say they are inspiring. The Korakai elder, silver-skinned and wise with age, leaned forward. We feared their speed of growth, but our fear did not stop them. They have done in 1 century what many species needed 5. If we continue to ignore them, one day their kingdom will overshadow even the Council. A serpent delegate hissed angrily. They are rebels. Outsiders! They were banned. To welcome them now would be to admit we were wrong. A quiet murmur spread through the chamber. The Council rarely admitted mistakes. But deep down, many delegates knew the truth. Humanity had not only survived, they had thrived. Finally, after long debate, the speaker said, "We must send envoys. If humanity refuses to come to us, then the Council will go to them." The envoys to Haven. For the first time in nearly 100 years, Council ships entered human space. They were sleek and bright, symbols of ancient power. But as they approached Haven, they saw something unexpected. Human fleets surrounded the capital world. vast armadas of ships, built not for conquest but for protection. Their hulls glowed with human designs carrying the banners of the Kingdom of Stars. The Council ships were forced to wait as human patrols scanned them. At last, permission was given. The envoys were guided to land on Haven. The sight that greeted them left them silent. The domes of Haven stretched farther than the eye could see, filled with shining towers, gardens, and rivers. Children played in wide parks. Merchants traded with alien refugees. The city pulsed with life and light. It was no struggling colony. It was a capital as great as any in the galaxy. The envoys were brought to the Hall of Unity. There, the council delegates expected to find nervous leaders eager for recognition. Instead, they found something else. The hall was filled with representatives from every human colony, and alongside them stood aliens, the outcasts and refugees who had found homes among humans. The sight made the envoys uneasy. Humanity was not alone. Humanity had built alliances the council had ignored. At the center stood Mira, once an aide, now the elected High Chancellor of the Kingdom of Stars. Her hair had turned silver, but her eyes were sharp with wisdom and resolve. The meeting, the Valar speaker rose first, its light shimmering. We come in peace. The Galactic Council wishes to open dialogue. Humanity has grown strong, but strength alone is not enough. The galaxy must remain balanced. Mira listened quietly, then spoke in calm, steady words. Balanced? When you banned us, was that balance? When you cast away our people, was that justice? You closed your doors and left us in the cold. But we did not wither. We built our own light. The Korakai elder spoke next, his voice gentle. You have achieved much. More than we believed possible. We come not to insult, but to ask. Will you consider joining the council now? A silence fell across the hall. Many human representatives looked at Mira, waiting for her answer. Mira did not smile. Her voice carried both pride and pain. When we begged for a place, you turned us away. When we asked for friendship, you gave us rejection. Now, when we no longer need you, you ask us to join. No, we are not here to join. We are here because the stars are wide enough for all. Her words struck the envoys deeply. They had expected anger, maybe demands, maybe even a plea. But what they heard was something greater. Independence. The demonstration, the council envoys were invited to see more of the kingdom. They were taken aboard human-built ships faster than many council vessels. They were shown mining colonies deep within asteroids, farms thriving on barren moons, schools teaching children not only human history, but the histories of alien refugees who had joined them. Everywhere they went, the envoys saw the same thing: unity. Humanity had not built an empire of conquest, but a kingdom of belonging. On Aurora, they saw children of many species playing together in forests under human care. On the mining worlds, they heard songs sung by human and alien voices together. On stations orbiting distant stars, they saw banners of the kingdom flying side by side with symbols of alien allies. The envoys realized something that troubled them deeply. Humanity had created not only power, but loyalty. The outcasts of the galaxy stood with them, not out of fear, but out of trust. The Council's dilemma. When the envoys returned to the Galactic Council, they gave their report. Some were impressed. Others were unsettled. They are no longer the small species we cast aside, one delegate admitted. They are equals now, but others argued bitterly. If we welcome them now, they may demand more. If we continue to ban them, their kingdom will grow beyond us. The debate raged for weeks. In the end, the council could not decide. They neither lifted the ban fully nor acted against humanity. They did what they had always done. Nothing. But humanity no longer cared. The kingdom's response on Haven, Mira gathered her council. She stood before them and spoke simply. The council has seen us. They have offered us a seat at their table. But we are not guests. We are builders of our own hall. Let them keep their council. We keep our kingdom. The representatives cheered, and messages of unity spread across the colonies. Humanity was not desperate for recognition anymore. They had already proven themselves. The voice of the people. In the years that followed, humans continued to grow side by side with the species who had joined them. Stories spread of humans who risked their lives to rescue alien traders, of colonies that opened their gates to strangers, of fleets that patrolled not for war but for peace. The council could not silence these stories. Slowly, citizens across the galaxy began to whisper, Perhaps humanity was never the danger. Perhaps they were the promise. The legacy of defiance Mira grew old, just as Elias had before her. Before her final days, she recorded a message for all of humanity. They told us no, she said, her voice steady and clear. But we built yes. They said we had no place. But we made 1,000 places. We are not children waiting for permission. We are the kingdom of stars. And the stars belong to all who dare to reach them. Her words became eternal. Children across the colonies learned them by heart. Traders carved them into their ships. Soldiers whispered them before they flew patrols. It was the promise of humanity. It was the spirit of defiance turned into strength. And though the council still held its halls of power, the galaxy now knew there were two great lights, the old and the new. The kingdom of stars was no longer a dream or a rebellion. It was a reality, a home, a future, and it was here to stay. The kingdom of stars stood tall in the galaxy. From a species once banned and rejected, humanity had built something that could not be ignored. Their colonies glittered like jewels across the darkness. Their fleets guarded the trade lanes, and their people, human and alien alike, lived with pride. But what made the kingdom strong was not only its ships or cities. It was its spirit. The same spirit that had carried humanity through oceans, skies, and space. The spirit that had turned rejection into creation. The spirit of defiance eternal. The new generation a century after Elias Carter's first words in the council chamber. Children were growing up who had never seen Earth. To them, Earth was a story, a place of oceans and forests told by their grandparents. Their homes were domes under alien skies, stations orbiting distant suns, or towns built on frozen plains. These children were proud of who they were. They recited the oath of the stars, reminding themselves that humanity was more than one planet. It was a people who carried home within them. Among them was a young boy named Aaron, born on Haven. He often asked his mother, "Why did the council ban us?" His mother would smile sadly. "Because they feared us, Aaron, but fear is not the end. It was the beginning. They closed their doors, so we built our own. And now you walk through halls brighter than theirs." Aaron would nod, eyes shining. He dreamed not of Earth, but of the endless stars beyond. For his generation, the galaxy was not a place of rejection. It was a place of promise. The rising kingdom. The colonies grew into a network of power and trust. New shipyards built vessels larger and faster than before. New schools taught science, art, and diplomacy, preparing children to lead with wisdom. Farmers cultivated alien soils, producing food that even council traders came to buy in secret. The kingdom became more than survival. It became leadership. Species once ignored by the Galactic Council found shelter in human lands. They did not call themselves servants, nor did humans call themselves masters. They were allies, partners, family. From the icy worlds of Haven to the forest skies of Aurora, voices spoke with one message: the stars are for all, not for the few. The council's concern far away. In the halls of the Galactic Council, the old species debated. Reports showed that the kingdom's influence was spreading faster than ever. Merchants preferred human trade routes. Refugees trusted human fleets. Even young species, just learning to fly among the stars, looked to the kingdom for guidance instead of the council. "We banned them," the serpent delegate hissed, "and yet they grow stronger each year." The Karakai elder, now older and slower, sighed. "Perhaps it is because we banned them. Our rejection made them unite. Our fear gave them strength." The Valar speaker's light flickered uneasily. "We wished to contain them. Instead, we gave birth to a rival." The council could not agree. Some still wanted to crush humanity before they grew too powerful. Others whispered that it was too late. And a few quietly wondered if humanity's path had always been the right one. The human response: but within the kingdom, humans were not afraid of the council's debates. They had long stopped asking for permission. They no longer waited for recognition. On Haven, High Chancellor Mira's successor, a wise leader named Jonas Hale, addressed the Council of Colonies. His words echoed the spirit of those who came before him. "The council gave us no welcome, so we welcomed ourselves. The council gave us no aid, so we built our own. And now they may frown at our success, but their frowns cannot erase the stars we have lit. Let them sit in their chamber. We will sit among the galaxies." His speech was broadcast across the colonies. Farmers cheered. Workers raised their tools in salute, and children repeated his words in schoolrooms. It was not anger. It was pride. The Festival of 100 Worlds. When the kingdom reached 100 settled worlds, they celebrated with the greatest festival in their history. The Festival of 100 Worlds was not only on Haven, it was shared across every colony, linked by vast communication networks. On each world, lights were launched into the skies, glowing like stars. Music filled the domes, ships painted their hulls with bright colors, and families gathered to tell stories of the long journey from Earth. On Aurora, children built lanterns shaped like stars and released them into the air. On mining colonies, workers lit fires deep underground to symbolize the light of humanity burning even in the darkest places. On space stations, captains sounded their ship horns together, filling the void with a chorus of triumph. In Haven's Hall of Unity, Jonas Hale stood before millions, with billions watching across the kingdom. "We were told we had no future," he said, his voice steady. "But today we stand together across 100 worlds. They called us outcasts. But look at us now. We are a family greater than their council, a kingdom that belongs not only to humans but to all who believe in hope." The cheers shook the air. Across every colony, people shouted as one, "The kingdom of stars forever." The eternal spirit, the festival, became more than celebration. It became tradition. Each year, the colonies gathered to remember their past and look toward the future. Children were told the stories of Elias Carter, Mira, and all who had defied despair. They learned not to see the ban as shame, but as the spark that lit the fire of their kingdom. And with every passing year, the fire grew brighter. The council's last attempt, at last, the council could wait no longer. They sent a message to Haven. It was simple. Lift the ban, join the council, share power. When the message was read aloud in the Hall of Unity, the chamber filled with quiet laughter. Not cruel laughter, but the kind born of realization. Humanity did not need the council anymore. Jonas Hale answered simply, "We thank you for your offer, but we have our own path. We are not here to join your council. We are here to walk beside it, equal and free. The stars are wide enough for both of us." The reply was sent. And with that, humanity's story with the council was closed. Defiance. Eternal years passed into centuries. The council remained holding its ancient halls. But beside it grew the kingdom of stars, young, alive, and ever-expanding. No longer was humanity remembered as the species that had been banned. They were remembered as the species that had turned exile into strength. They were remembered as the people who had shown the galaxy that rejection could be answered not with surrender, but with creation. In the schools of the kingdom, children still recited their oath. On the banners of their fleets, stars were painted in a circle symbolizing unity. On the lips of every generation, the same words lived on. "We are the children of Earth. We are the children of the stars. No door will be closed to us, for we carry the key within. We are humanity, and we will never be broken." The galaxy would change many times. Empires would rise and fall. Alliances would shift. But the kingdom of stars endured, eternal in its spirit. For it was not built on fear, nor on conquest, nor on recognition. It was built on defiance, on hope, on the will of a people who refused to give up. Humanity had been banned, but humanity had answered with something greater. And so in the endless night of the universe, the kingdom of stars shone forever, its light a promise to all who dared to dream. Defiance eternal,